Good morning and happy Friday to another edition of Freight Gong Friday. I think this intro has been working for the last couple of weeks, Reed, because of our topics that we're bringing on.
About a lot of serious stuff, man.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting for this episode is that we have Jonathan Kolb right away with us. For the last 2 weeks, we've been starting off for 30 minutes, just I guess setting up in many ways, getting ready for the show. Today's show is a little bit different because we have Jonathan coming on first. Then we have John, gCaptain. You know more about him, Reed. And afterwards, we have Kara Smith-Brown. And then we're going to finish off today's episode with 30 minutes of, I guess, a freestyle. So
I'm gonna just text. I'm gonna text some people and see if anyone wants to come on for the last 30 minutes.
Let's do it. Yeah,
we'll do it live.
Yeah. If someone wants to join us, you could obviously use the chat button here and comment and let us know. We can send you a link. But Jonathan, so we did an interview with you last year on Freight Gong Friday in January. That was 13 months ago, and since then you sent me on a couple OBC trips, onboard courier trips. So I traveled around the world delivering packages for your logistics company, which basically handles expedited shipments that need to be hand delivered via a passenger on a plane. And we definitely wanted to get kind of bring you on and discuss what's happening with the Iranian situation, the Middle East conflict. We know a lot of the airport destinations are shut down. Like I think Doha is currently shut down. I'm not sure about Dubai. I think Dubai has a limited amount of flights currently going in and out. But I'm sure that this has created some kind of, strange situation for you and your company that you've never dealt with before. So thanks for joining us again. And welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it definitely created some new situation. But it's not that new actually, because COVID is not that long ago. Just the minor details changed. So before it was your passport or your nationality or your PCR status rejecting someone to board a plane, and now it's airplanes not flying at all, which makes it more difficult for us, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, like it's so the airplane situation overall, like airports are shut down in like the Middle East essentially. And I know you messaged me here earlier this week saying that you're booking like tickets from Asia to Europe for like 7,000 euros one way, which is probably like almost like 10 times as much as it typically is. But like, I mean, so what broadly, if you could just kind of tell us like so we know the airports are shut down, but then like there's shipments that need to get to Saudi Arabia. There's these shipments that need to get to various parts of the Middle East. So I don't know, like what's going on? Tell us as much as you can. I'm sure like we will have a lot more questions, but like I'm just so curious about what's happening right now.
Yeah, the Middle East was always one of our main hubs, especially from Asia to Europe and the other way around. And just after the crisis happened, we realized how depending we are on those Middle Eastern carriers like Qatar Airways, Emirates, and so on. And the problem was it snowballed so fast into something bigger because not only were many flights canceled, but everybody, I double-checked the numbers, over 1 million passengers were rebooked on other airlines. So it was extremely difficult to book Lufthansa, Cathay Pacific, for example, other carriers who were not flying via Middle East. But in the end, there were not that many seats available. So everything was fully booked for weeks almost. So it was very challenging, and emergency shipments were still happening, but prices were skyrocketing, and it became very difficult with finding the right flights. We had to become very creative with different airports in Europe, for example. Maybe we couldn't fly to Frankfurt, so we checked for Munich or Brussels or Amsterdam or Warsaw. So yeah, that's what's going on at the moment.
Is for your customers though, like the people who need urgent stuff, like are they evaluating not going this route because of the change in air price, like the ticket prices? I mean, you would think for the sort of stuff you guys are moving around, like they're kind of just like whatever, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
they have to go with it.
And so I mean, and especially if you can continue to deliver good service, I mean, you probably reap the rewards in a sense, right? When there's chaos.
Yeah, it's definitely good for business, but we're not taking advantage. Like we're not going crazy now and exploiting any situations. We keep the same margins, but yeah, it just becomes a matter of who can secure flight tickets. And especially the problem is it's not only the OBC side, but the same goes for the air freight side as well, because a lot of passenger planes were canceled, and they had a lot of air freight booked in the belly of the aircraft, and that's also not flying. So
I don't think people realize how much cargo goes on commercial airlines. Like, I don't think your typical person really gets that.
How many truckloads? I actually interviewed I was at the Munich conference, the logistics transport conference in Munich. I went there because Jonathan told us we should back in June, and there were so many airlines there had a presence. And I talked to the Saudi Arabian, I forgot what his role was, like probably like chief commercial officer or whatnot of cargo, and he was describing like there's. I think he gave us a percentage that like there's a very small percentage of cargo being shipped via air freight, but the percentage of value that cargo is huge, because it's usually like the high end stuff like horses, luxurious vehicles, flowers, perishables, and so there's a large amount of value that is being diverted. Or I'm not sure if it's even moving right now. Like, what are you seeing, Jonathan?
Yeah, it definitely is moving, but for much higher prices. So probably double the air freight rates from Asia to Europe. Yeah, that's shipments have to keep moving. In the end, this is driving inflation. I don't think we will see this from the air freight side, but in the broader scheme of things, we will definitely see logistics driving inflation. And because in the end, the consumer has to pay for all of this. The logistics is going up, the logistics costs going up, so the products will increase as well. And
I'm looking at Flight Radar right now. I'm just trying to get a sense for like what is actually going on over there. And for some reason, of course, I'm not signed into my account and I can't use filters. But from what I can tell,
I'll pull it up here in a second.
What?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you talk? What is this? What did it?
So
let me try to sign in.
Mercio said this: the situation in the Middle East could trigger supply chain disruptions similar to those during COVID. And I guess like what Jonathan's been saying here is, like this situation is also similar to what happened in COVID from like the air cargo side, the disruptions. Right. So I mean, I'm wondering, Jonathan, like, first of all, like, I think Reed, you should pull up Flight Radar here in a second.
Yeah, I'm signed in. So
all right. You want to share a screen?
Keep talking.
Yeah, and then, Jonathan, I mean, I'm curious what, like, have you had any shipments go through the Middle East throughout the last couple of weeks, or have you had to, like, I don't know, like, I'm curious what that has looked like from an operational standpoint. I am part of your WhatsApp group, and I saw there was some kind of shipment, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere towards the Gulf countries, and I'm just curious what's happening. Like, have you seen any shipments that actually have moved through the Middle East at this time?
Yes, we did some, but only with heavy disclaimers while offering. So that's always a big risk, because in the end, clients are choosing our service for security and time-definite deliveries, and it becomes very difficult if you don't even know if the flight will be canceled or not. What I can tell is, luckily, we didn't have any OBC stuck in the Middle East, but a friend of mine, an OBC from Malaysia, he was stuck for 9 days in Dubai with the box. So he was on the way to make a delivery, and he had the cargo with him all the time, and he had to hold on to it for 9 days. And then once his Emirates flight continued, he just continued his trip, business as usual, delivered, and returned home. So I hope the OBC company who was sending this guy gave him a huge bonus, because imagine you're stuck there with hundreds of thousands of freaking out passengers while Dubai airport was being attacked by drones and so on. Imagine.
Yeah. So
that must be like.
I've got Doha filtered here. I mean, there's only 4 flights to or from Doha right now. Like, that's pretty crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
But if we look at Dubai, it seemed like Dubai.
Dubai's doing a little better.
Dubai's. Why is this?
I think
why is it like that?
I think it's further away. Doha's like right next to like the Strait of Hormuz, and I think it's more of a direct.
Doha's
right there. Yeah, you're pulling it up.
Doha's right here, but Dubai's right here, and this is the strait right here. So
okay, interesting.
I mean, and they don't look like they've. I mean, they've got everything going. It seems.
I think Dubai's like just fractionally, I think, operational right now. So it's a lot fewer flights going.
So there's a lot of space closures going on, and then there's an attack here again, and they cancel our flights again. So it can change by the minute. And what we also had was we had requests for rescuing passengers with private jets. In the end, we do only OBC services, so we couldn't assist there. But I heard from friends of mine from the industry that they did a lot of rescue flights, like privately arranged, and people had to move to Oman, for example, because the airspace was not closed there, and then they could fly with a private jet and leave the area.
I've heard about that. I heard Oman even blocked private jets a couple days ago from, I guess, departing or entering the country. I'm not sure if that was accurate or not. But so you got reached out to by logistics companies to help basically rescue via private jets?
Yeah, they received the request and they thought like we're the solution guys. So maybe we had some contacts, and they were looking for every small solution anybody could have. So they were very, very desperate. And also governments were very slow. For example, Germany was extremely slow with arranging rescue flights. I don't even know if they actually sent one. So, and there were like tens of thousands of Germans stuck there.
Interesting. Well, Jonathan, so 13 months ago, we interviewed you on Freight Gong Friday. That's when I first learned about OBC, onboard courier, or at least from the first time I kind of realized there's a lot more freight being shipped via couriers than I first maybe initially thought. And then you sent me on a couple of trips. So I was able to go to El Paso, Texas. I was able to go to Palau and Japan. And it was honestly quite an amazing week. I haven't traveled since then with OBC, but I'm curious what kind of developments have been in the OBC market over the last year or so. Has anything, besides this conflict in the Middle East and what you've been seeing, what else has been new or different?
Yeah, there's new developments also from a road freight perspective. For example, there's a new law preventing non-EU drivers from entering the EU for too many days. I think they can only stay 90 days, and as soon as they overstay, they are being arrested. And this is also affecting our OBC business because there's a shortage of drivers, especially from Eastern Europe, because they don't have enough truck drivers. If a good percentage of them is rejecting to enter the EU because they don't want to go to prison, obviously. People are looking to send those urgent shipments via hand carry then. And yeah, there's strikes going on as well on the trucker side, and then everybody has to prepare for this. So this has happened a few weeks ago, and this will happen next week again probably. This is a new development, and something happened in Morocco. So Morocco is trying to ban hand carries because there was too many. Morocco is one of the main markets because there's so many automotive suppliers. And they're sick and tired of too many people with too many boxes traveling through Morocco.
Really? Wow, that's strange.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that would be? Is that because they're worried that they're maybe also handling some different, let's just say products? I don't know. Like, why would they be worried about that? Isn't that like providing, I don't know, jobs and work?
In the end, it is, but most airports are trying to offer air freight. So if they look at one guy traveling with one small box, they tolerate that. But if someone is arriving with 30 luggages and it's just one passenger, it's just stressing the capacity of the airport, of the baggage handling team. It holds up everything. Then sometimes I've been there several times. The customs office is full of boxes, and obviously the customs officers are getting sick of that. And it's not just Morocco. The same happened also in some states in the US. For example, Atlanta banned bigger OBC shipments a while ago already, in Dallas and
Really?
San Antonio as well. Yes.
What's big? It's funny because I flew into Atlanta in December with the Freight Caviar print magazines, and I had like 10 boxes. No one checked me, and there's no custom work needed for printed magazines. So luckily I just walked through. But what is a big OBC shipment in their terms?
So in Dallas, the definition is hand carry is only what you can carry with you into the cabin. So everything bigger than hand luggage would be bonded. And in Atlanta, they are a bit more. They give you a bit more leeway. So usually they accept everything you can carry with your hands, which would be like 2 big boxes. And so up to like, let's say 50 kilogram in total, they would tolerate. But everything above that, they would send it to the cargo terminal because they just reject this being hand carry. This is obviously way too much luggage. And
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm curious because I'm going to be sending out, I don't even know how many boxes is going to be, but next week I'm sending out a shipment from Warsaw to Chattanooga with the print magazines. And I want to use FedEx for it, but I'm wondering like, what would you do? Like, first of all, should I be expecting much higher rates this week compared to last week? And I'll just say maybe like, I wish I had better dimensions and the weight, but like, what should I be expecting? And secondly, like, what do you see from that air freight side? Do you have any knowledge of the current situation, Jonathan, when like from Europe to the US?
I'm not very involved in air freight, so I'm not an expert. I just hear from people in the industry here and there. I think the air freight rates between Europe and the Americas are still very stable. That's what I'm assuming because they're not affected. What is very expensive is Asia because you have to pass through the Middle East usually. So I don't think FedEx would adjust the rates due to the crisis at the moment.
All right, so I should be fine.
Well, I mean, the jet fuel prices are probably way up, I assume. So if there's any impact on price, it's probably just related to the fuel costs, I assume.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. Also for especially in Europe, went up by 50 or 60 cents. Now diesel is more expensive than petrol, which is usually not.
Is it not normally like that? Oh, interesting.
Diesel was always much cheaper than petrol.
Okay. Well, I'm curious. I want to share my screen here real quick, Jonathan. For some reason, when I do share a screen, you can't be seen. But 1 second. This is from we had this in our newsletter today. Let's go before presenting a screen. Okay. Okay. So this is what Bloomberg thinks oil prices could be if the Strait of Hormuz is shut down for different periods of time, and we checked with Reed right before the show. The record of the price of a barrel was, I think, 147 back in 2008. This was like July 2008. And then 5 months later, it was at $34 a barrel. And there was, the economy crashed. It was the Great Recession. And I'm wondering, Jonathan, what do you think is going to happen here? What, especially from like your lens, when it comes to what's been happening for the last couple of weeks? What would be your predictions, if you have any, for what's to come?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it will still continue for a bit longer. And at least in Germany, I know that the prices are actually people exploiting the situation right now, the gas stations and so on, because the fuel that they are selling for higher rates at the moment was purchased weeks or months ago. So they're just taking advantage. If you see, for example, there's a lot of people who are crossing from Germany, from Eastern Germany to Poland, because in Poland the prices are still lower, even though the supply chains should be pretty similar.
Yeah, interesting enough, there's Polish people are crossing over to Slovakia because prices in Slovakia are even cheaper.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure. I think it will continue for a bit, and it all depends on the strait how they continue. So
Yeah,
I don't have a good opinion there. Sorry.
got it. Reed, what's your take? What do you think?
Man, I have no idea. I have literally no clue. It's I've just mostly been reading about kind of the maritime situation because that's like the most acutely affected. Seems to me like some ridiculous percentage of global oil comes out of the Persian Gulf and
20% of the global market.
Yeah, and so and there's going to be massive downstream consequences of that supply being shut out of the market for a long time. And it's basically on the US to reopen the strait because we're the ones who kind of got us into this mess, and the US Navy needs to like kind of figure it out, it would seem. But I mean, because Iran's talking about like laying mines in the water, and I guess like that's like a huge that's like kind of a big deal. I'm sure we'll talk about that with Gong, but I mean, dude, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Is that a good
answer? I mean, we talked about this earlier. We FaceTimed right before the show, and like, there's like two ways of the way I see this is happening. Like, either like Trump, I think, pays the Iranians to like basically like, I don't know if like for forgiveness, but basically like, hey, yo, like we're gonna back off, and like here's a bunch of money so you could just stop like shooting up the Strait of Hormuz, or we send in ground troops and essentially try to clean it up, which could be like one of those forever wars that could take forever to actually clean up and cost not only billions of dollars, but also it might like literally kill a lot of U.S. soldiers. So it's a bad situation, and I hope that everything like works out and like we could return to like some kind of like form of normalcy. And
yeah, I feel like it's hard to. I feel like it's hard to put a lid back on something like this. You know what I mean? Like it is a
yeah. And so
yeah,
the effects, like the domino effects, and like the effects that's going to have on the logistics industry and freight industry worldwide and the global economy is quite massive. Especially the longer this is going to take hold or be here. So yeah, it's tough to say. We obviously none of us has a crystal ball, so we don't know what's going to happen. But it's not looking too good. I do sense that we're all we're still all in, I think, good hopes. And like Jonathan, like you obviously like in many ways you're still very busy, like probably more busy now because of the situation, and there's more logistics to handle. You're currently in Mexico City for a conference, and we have a lot going on here too. So I mean, I think that all we could do is hope that this clears up.
Jonathan, tell us about the conference you're at, and what do you think people are going to be talking about there?
Yeah, it's the logistics world. It's here in Mexico City, starting on Wednesday and Thursday next week. I think it will definitely be a topic because most freight forwarders in Mexico are dealing with China, and a lot of the cargo is moving through the Middle East as well. So there's the Pacific route, but there's also the Middle Eastern route with Qatar and Emirates and so on. So that will definitely be a big topic. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, it's always interesting to be. I was just at TM, which is like more a maritime ocean conference, and last year, yeah, that was last week, and basically whatever, a couple days after this whole thing started. Last year everyone was talking about tariffs, and now we're just like, oh wow, there's a lot going on. So it's very, if there's anything you could say about this, it's we live in interesting times. We always live in. I always talk about this. Like people are like, oh, like we live in unprecedented times. I'm just like, have times ever been precedented? Like,
I would argue yes, like before COVID, 100%. I think there was maybe we were just young and kind of ignorant of what was happening in the world, but I totally feel like before COVID things were just kind of more normal. There was a time frame, I think, for like at least like a decade where it was quite chill.
I think that might be, yeah. I don't know the right answer, but Jonathan, what do you think?
I think from a logistics point of view, the whole system became so fragile. Everything is just in time. Everything is optimized to the last decimal, and as soon as one small factor is out of order, then the whole thing snowballs into a huge crisis. And when I look at products, sometimes we ship products via hand carry from China to Mexico just for them to be somehow manufactured, adjusted, and then they go to Poland, and then 2 weeks later the same products go to the US, and then in the end they are being shipped back to Morocco, where they will be implemented, or where the cars will be assembled, and so on. So it's so ridiculous sometimes how fragile the whole system is, and I think that's also playing a big role. In the end, in the past times, it was easier. You had the production plant here in Germany, and then there was the assembly plant next to it, and then there was just a truck driving from A to B, and it was like 2 hours. Or sometimes with Volkswagen, for example, the suppliers are right next to Volkswagen, so there was not a big risk of the supply chain to be that affected. But these days, with all these globalization and reduction of labor costs and taking advantage of different working conditions in different markets, it's changing a lot, and it's a huge gamble.
Yeah, we definitely. It's interesting you bring that up. I mean, it's COVID definitely exposed just like kind of how fragile the system is when you have, to your point, like suppliers and manufacturers and inputs being spread across the globe, right? And you're pulling some material from the US, sending it to China, they do something to it, they send it back, then we fucking send it back again, and then we put it in a bunch of metal boxes, and some of it goes on the plane. It's just like, bro, like we're just making like, Hasbro toys here. Like, do we really need to be like doing this? Like, it's nuts. Obviously there are some commodities where, if you're talking about auto manufacturing, like perhaps there's inputs to cars that like there's no other way, but like relying on safe passage of ocean vessels just so we can get like cheap t-shirts, you're just like, dang, like this is kind of wild,
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, we talked about with this about Reed last week, where Reed thinks that like we're gonna be at a place soon at some point where like 3D printers are gonna be printing everything we need, and then all of a sudden like the globalization we won't really need as much.
Strong incentive now for like, just because of all this stuff, there's an incentive to de-globalize supply chains, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure, especially if you're a US based company, it's like, if you can do business with Mexican manufacturers versus, any sort of manufacturer in Asia or anywhere else, it's just like there's a lot less risk in those counterparties than there are, relying on folks on the other side of the Pacific when, China's doing what it's doing, and we're kind of in this like global kind of posturing sort of situation with them. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of, I was at a commercial real estate event in Southern California last week, and all the people there are like, commercial real estate folks on the West Coast, and they're all incredibly bullish on the reshoring of American manufacturing, and they're seeing it in the deals they're doing, in the customers that are coming to them looking to, gobble up large warehouses and build large manufacturing plants and stuff like that. And they're like, this is kind of unprecedented. It's not been like this. And I think a lot of that is just because there's just a strong incentive to try to de-risk your supply chain, so to speak,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Jonathan,
Yeah.
Are you bullish or bearish on the global economy, or I guess maybe like on even globalization? Yeah, I'm kind of curious if you could answer that. What are your thoughts?
Short and midterm, at least midterm, I think I'm still bullish, but long term, I think something has to happen. So also with the markets running very hot, like the stock market and crypto and so on, crypto is not that good at the moment. But I think with all this money printing going on due to the war and so on, assets might just increase on paper, but in the end, it's just the devaluation of fiat money at the moment. And yeah, so
Fiat money,
let's see.
the devaluation of fiat money. Well, we could go down this rabbit hole, I feel like, for a little bit, but cool. Jonathan, I appreciate you joining us for today's Great Gong Friday. Hope you have a wonderful time in Mexico City, and I'm sure we'll have you back on here soon.
See you, brother.
Take care, Jonathan. Bye.
I just John DM messaged me and said that he thumbs up the new link I sent him. So I hopefully he'll be here soon. But I mean, dude, there's a lot going on right now, man. You know, like it's a pretty wild time. Here's our boy.
1 second, let me set it up.
John, he's getting plugged in here. John, can you hear us? Check.
Are we live?
Hello.
Hello.
Yo, what's going on?
How are you guys?
Good, man. Long time no talk. It's unfortunate that we only talk under the most extreme situations.
Yes, very unfortunate. Unfortunate indeed.
So you've probably had a busy couple weeks, I have to imagine.
Yeah, and I'm sick here, so I apologize for that in advance.
John, are you currently in a ship?
No, I'm in my office, but I'm sick, so I just came back from the shipping conference, and I didn't charge my laptop, so I normally have a nicer camera in. So I'm just doing this on my iPad. I got 27% battery left.
Well, you just flipped.
And now I'm going sideways. What the hell?
Yeah. we'll make the most of your.
Are you on your iPhone, John?
No, I'm on iPad.
iPad. Oh, sorry. Okay, I guess it flipped. So might be good to unflip you.
Chat, we'll do it live. It's all good.
We've never done an interview this way before.
There we go.
There we go.
Cool. Jonathan, I'm curious if you could, because I don't think we've met before. I've seen your posts on Twitter, and I'm just curious if you could give us like a quick introduction to who you are, what you've done, and I guess we'll start from there.
Yeah, I'm Captain John Konrad. I was a ship captain, and then I started the website gCaptain.com, which is the most visited maritime and naval news website in the world. So I've done a few other things along the way, including I wrote the book Fire on the Horizon. It's back there somewhere. On the BP oil explosion, I started a bunch of ski websites with my brother, Unofficial Networks, and he just bought the Farmer's Almanac, so I was helping him just a little bit with that acquisition, and Pentagon Press reporter now, so doing a lot more Navy news and work down in DC.
Pentagon Press. So you have credentials, or you're able to get in to like whenever the Pentagon has a press release or anything. I guess, what are those called?
Yeah, I should be down there right now, except I'm talking to you guys. You guys,
well,
Hegseth had a press conference right now, and I said, sorry, Pete, I gotta talk to my friend Reed.
You gotta. Well, the only reason you're here is because you got a one-up Sal from last week. That's you can't.
I know. I almost turned it down.
You can't let him have the last word here. What? So I guess last week when we talked to Sal, it was we were a week in at that point. Now I guess we're 2 weeks into this whole ordeal. I don't know if we're calling it a war or conflict or what the semantics of all the language is, but I guess the news since then has been just total kind of confusion about the situation in the Strait of Hormuz and in the Persian Gulf. I was listening to Sal's show that he put out yesterday, and he said that there was a couple vessels struck by something in the Persian Gulf, and there's all these rumors of mines being laid in the strait, and nobody really seems to have a grip of what's going on. And it seems like, at least according to what Sal was saying, that the U.S. Navy hasn't really kind of done what they've needed to do to assure folks of kind of safety in the domain. So, like, I guess just set the stage for folks who are listening who might not know enough about what's going on.
Yeah, we struck Iran, killed a bunch of people, destroyed a lot of weapons, Shahed drones. That's their primary drone that's going to, that attacks infrastructure, attacks people, places. It's kind of a long-distance drones. They also have ballistic missiles. They've had this stockpile they've been building for a while. And then they decided to do this crazy attack. We went after their leadership, so they lost kind of their command and control structure, and there must have been some sort of like a doomsday scenario where if you lose control, or sorry, I think it's your software, like switch every time your software switches it. So I'll reset it. But they did this. They started throwing drones, each local commander at everyone, and there was, we destroyed their entire navy, and then they started just recently, 2 days ago, hitting ships in the Strait of Hormuz. They were attacking ships before. There was a American flagship in a dry dock that got hit. There was another American flagship in the Persian Gulf that got hit, but it didn't really explode. Now we're seeing actual ships explode. We're seeing oil tanks on shore that are blowing up. It's making a lot of imagery, but there was initially a concern about insurance. The ships did not want to leave the Persian Gulf because their insurance was canceled. But now it's not just insurance. The talk at the shipping conference was, we're not going to risk any sailors' lives trying to make this this run through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, and so the only folks who have been passing, because there have been a couple ships that have gone through, they're mostly like either Iranian or Chinese, I guess, from what I've seen. Is that the case?
But even yesterday, Chinese ship was attacked. There was another Chinese ship that went and did a quick U-turn. China buys the majority of Iran's oil, but it's not the Chinese massive refineries that are buying it. It's these things called the teapot refineries. These teapot refineries are very small refiners that have China that have a independent license, so they not necessarily have the full backing of a major oil company, but there's a lot of money to be made. The tanker rates, it would cost, just prior to the war, it was $50,000 a day to charter one of these tankers. Now rates are going above $500,000 a day. So there have been a couple independents. There's one Greek ship owner that has been sending a few through, but not many.
Yeah. I would like to bring up some of your tweets here, John, because you do have a large following on Twitter, and you did post this yesterday. I hope you don't mind me sharing it here. It did. I mean, it's got a lot of views. I'm just pull it up here real quick. It's definitely trending. It's got over 3,500 or 3.2 thousand likes and 240,000 views. Could you break down for us?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay.
I got you. Can you hear me, John?
Hello, hello. Mic check, mic
Chat,
check.
chat. We live?
John, are you there? John, are you there?
Can you guys hear me? I
Yeah,
can't
we can
hear
hear
you.
you. We can hear you.
Can you?
We can hear you.
Hello.
We got some
Hello.
technical difficulties currently. John, are you there?
There we go. Back up.
I think
Back up.
Yeah, he's got back up.
Back up.
Chat, are we live?
Headphones.
There we go. I can hear
All
you
right.
now.
There we go.
All right, John. I'm wondering if you could break down this tweet that you had last night. It's quite long, and I'm kind of wondering what was your latest take here on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean it's going. The Strait of Hormuz is a potential. It is an epic failure. We have the biggest disruption that we have seen, in the history of the world. That was just announced yesterday. There are larger problems at play here. It's 1/3 of all fertilizer, and even more if you include the energy of fertilizer produced elsewhere is coming out of the Persian Gulf. So if this is not sorted out, you could have mass starvation around the world, famine. This is a big deal here, guys. And the Navy kept saying they're prepared. You had just yesterday Scott Bessent saying, "Hey, we got all these allied navies. We're going to build a naval coalition towards the end of the month." Well, we tried this in the Red Sea already, and the most the European navies were able to send at one time is 3 warships. That's not enough for this convoy operation. People said, we did this in the 80s. Yes, that's when we had a 600 ship navy. We don't have that anymore. Our stronger allies, we could absolutely do it with the help of Japan and South Korea, but they refuse to participate in the Red Sea operation, and they're going to be reluctant to participate in this operation because, quite frankly, China now has the biggest navy in the world, and these warships that those 2 nations have are protecting their back door against a possible Chinese escalation. Now, that specific was saying, when we started this administration, I was extremely excited because we had all these maritime professionals. I had worked very closely with Mike Waltz on the Ships for America Act, which was going to provide funding and opportunity to rebuild our merchant marine. We only have 80-something ships in international service right now. China has thousands of ships in international service, so we needed to do something. Mike Waltz got the NSC job. He opened a maritime office at NSC. We got Sean Plankett, the Coast Guard. Coast Guard is our regulator, so our license is printed by the Coast Guard. The ships, when you register as a U.S. flag, is the Coast Guard. And then we had other people in the Pentagon and elsewhere, including our friend Sal Mercogliano was asked to be the highest ranking admiral in the U.S. Merchant Marine, and systematically every single one of those appointments or positions was either fired, run out, or in the case of Sal, never got to the confirmation stage, or transferred, like Mike Waltz and now Christy Nome. So there just isn't very much maritime expertise, and there's a reason for each of these individually, but when you look at it collectively, someone has dismantled our maritime and freight and logistic expertise. Another friend of the show, Ross Kennedy, was kicking ass in commerce. He's doing another secret job, top secret job somewhere else. So he's still very much in the fight, but he's not in as much of the logistics and maritime trade fight as he was prior. So, and the admirals, the admirals don't like admitting that they're wrong. So when you ask them, "Hey, can you protect ships? What's the problem with thing?" They're going to give answers, and they're going to say, "Yes, we can get it done." But they don't have, they're not freight guys. They're not ship captains. They don't particularly understand this. So I think the advice that the president's getting is potentially not the best.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I mean, from what I could tell from you, John, is that you're quite pessimistic about what's happening right now, and you're kind of painting like that this could really be like like I guess create a dire situation for not only shipping but also for the global economy is what I'm kind of like, I guess, what I could see. Can you go a little bit deeper in what your expectations are for like the near term and the long term of what's going to happen right now?
Well, it's I am a perennial optimist. I'm an entrepreneur, and the one thing you need to start companies is optimism. So I'd say that's wrong, but they found clinical studies, the people who are the most depressed are actually optimists, because you're like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, we're all going to come together, and then bam, it crashes apart. So this is crashing apart at the last moment. That's the I still believe we can come together and do this. It's going to take a long time. Prices are going to go up, but yeah, the worst case scenario is, see, the bigger problem is we saw this already in the Red Sea. The Houthis essentially closed down the Red Sea to shipping. China and Russia made deals with the Houthis, so their ships are going through, but legitimate ships are not. And the container companies took their ships and they sent them around Africa. And that's causing global inflation on everything. People ask, despite everything we do, why is inflation still sticky? And I believe that's the reason why people don't understand the maritime domains. But if you remember during the COVID and then the port congestion crisis, when there were all these ships just stacked over LA, people were freight rates went extremely high, right? So these shipping companies, ship owners were making billions. They took those billions and they gave them all to China, and China started throwing out a massive number of new build container ships. So when this Red Sea crisis happened, all of these ships had to go around. That sucks capacity out of the market. But it was being replaced by Chinese new builds. But at the same time, all these environmentalists who have been pushing, they've basically made building oil tankers new illegal. This UN maritime organization in London, the IMO, they're not illegal. It's just very hard to get financing. It's very hard to follow all the regulations. So we don't have new tanker capacity coming through. So these hundreds of tankers that are stuck in the Persian Gulf, there's no replacement for it. So the people are excited. They're like, oh, we've got Venezuela oil, we've got oil in the United States, we are a net exporter of oil, so the Europeans can buy from us. Yes, they can, but they can't get that. There are just no available tankers to sell it to them. So you could potentially have a thing where, if you also remember during COVID, oil went negative, I think $50 at one point, $60. They were paying you $50 a barrel to take the oil from them because their storage tanks were full. So you could have a reduction in prices in the United States, and those prices could go high elsewhere. Everyone talks about the price of oil. Well, the price of oil is global because these tankers have always been cheap. But if you remove the transportation, you have fractionalized markets. How does this work for the U.S. and particularly the trucking? Well, we have this abundance of oil, so it's going to build up in the Gulf of Mexico and other ways. But we make Louisiana light sweet crude. I used to work on oil rigs. We have some of the best oil in the world. That oil gets sold as a premium, and we have really good engineers in the United States. So we actually import pretty nasty crude and then export the good stuff for a profit differential. So we cannot, most of our refineries cannot, they would have to be completely re-engineered in order to use this better fuel, which is, entirely possible if the environmental and all of the local and state regulations in this nation and all the NIMBYism wasn't ridiculous. So you can't just go in and without all these environmental permits. look at California. The biggest problem is California is shutting down their refineries. So they can get, and they're starting to move tankers from the Gulf into California, but those refineries are shutting down. So actually that oil right now has to go from the Gulf of Mexico. It's got to go all the way to Korea, where it's being refined and then brought back into California, which is absolutely nuts. These environmentalists go, the only thing, the most the important environmental thing in the world is this increase in CO2. Well, now we're sending these massive ships all the way to Korea, and the Pacific Ocean is the largest ocean by far. It's enormous. And then coming back. So if you don't have available tankers, or if those tankers, the day rate goes from 50,000 a day to $500,000 a day, it could be absolutely catastrophic to West Coast, trucking freight, anyone who relies on diesel or gasoline.
I'm curious who's gaining right now. Like, I saw an article on gCaptain about lightening or loosening of the restrictions on the sale of Russian oil in Europe. Are they just kind of licking their chops right now? Is this like a really good thing for Russia and potentially for other kind of geopolitical adversaries?
Yeah, so normally what happens when we have this problem is we release oil from the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. The problem with the SPR right now is Biden went and he drained most of the SPR. So we don't have that availability of the SPR. On top of that, what oil brokers often do in these times is, if the price of oil is going up and you have locked in charter rates, they will often have these super tankers floating in the middle of the ocean. So if you're, the price of you have 1 million barrels, and the average super tanker is 1 million barrels, right? You got 60 million barrels of oil in there. That's $60 million. And then if that price of oil gets up to 200 million, well, you've just made $140 million. But once you get to your destination, you have to sell it, right? So they will tell all these tankers to slow down or even do circles in the middle of the ocean as this price goes up. So that sucks capacity out too. But the other suck of capacity is all of these Russian shadow tanker fleets. They're all illegal tankers. We seized a few of them. The Coast Guard sent boarding parties, special forces in to take these tankers. When we sanctioned Russia, we said, you can't register the flag here. You can't have a legitimate ship. So Russia started taking all these old tankers that were going to be scrapped and taking them and sending them to places like China and India and other North Korea. And these are some of those tankers going through the Red Sea. So what we need to find available barrels of oil right now. So what Scott Bessent said is, hey, we're going to we're going to legitimize temporarily all of these shadow tankers around the world, so that those tankers, instead of having to go all the way through the Red Sea to North Korea and China, those tankers can go to Europe and potentially the United States. And so it's unlocking the shadow fleet of available crude. So, I mean, the bottom line is they are struggling to find any available sources of crude temporarily to make up for the fact that 20 million barrels a day is not coming out of the Persian Gulf, and we don't have a strategic petroleum reserve in the United States because Biden closed it down to lower gas prices in an attempt to win re-election.
So a couple of questions here, John. How big is the shadow fleet that Russia currently has? Do we know? And so essentially what's been happening for the last few years is like the US has been policing the shadow fleet, but it's kind of difficult to police a shadow fleet when you're dealing with oceans and they're massive. You mentioned there's a few of them that were taken, but like, can you elaborate a little bit more about that? I'm just out of sheer curiosity wondering how that all looks like.
Well, we have not been policing the shadow fleet. We've been policing certain ships in the shadow fleet. So we turned a blind eye to most of the shadow fleet during Biden era, and Trump came in, and we could go take a lot of these tankers. I've said we have a massive shortage of oil tankers in the U.S. Merchant Marine. Let's take that and put a U.S. flag on it. Problem is, a lot of these are older tankers. They're not in spec. These guys are, right now, basically how the international maritime rules work is you can do anything you want at sea. No, there are no inspectors. But when you get to a port to refuel or transfer cargo, that's when the inspectors come on. So these shadow tank ships are just not stopping at any port. It's like a highway, just not stopping at the wait stations. But in the international waters, there's no real police on the highway. The police are stuck in those way stations, right? So they're just going directly from Russia, not stopping on their way to China, and so they're not getting any inspections. And we haven't done anything about it. But where we have started coming is when we were ramping up in Venezuela. We say, hey, we're not going to send police out to the highway, but we're going to send police to this local area, Venezuela. And some of those we tracked and told them to turn around, and they ended up in the middle of the ocean when we, sent boarding parties. But we're only going after a very small percentage of these shadow tanker ships.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure. So like with the U.S. administration now kind of, I guess, allowing these shadow fleets to operate without sanctions, is that actually going to have any impact? Like what's the number of millions of barrels of oil that's going to all of a sudden be, I guess, non-sanctioned? Because from what I've read, I think 20 million barrels are kind of locked up now because of the Strait of Hormuz. And I think with the U.S. Government and what they did with the amount of reserves that we did have, I think they were releasing 3.3 million of barrels a day. And so there's still like a big chunk missing. Will this actually have any effect on the oil market?
Well, again, the problem is not, I mean, it is a problem that we have a loss of, barrels, and that's 20 million barrels a day. We have that loss from the market. But the bigger problem is we have no ships to move the oil. So it's just like with the freight. You have if you have all of this, you shut down or you remove half of the trucks from the market, or you remove, let's say, 10% of the trucks because they are going moving whatever for the mafia or drug cartels, and then you have a bunch more trucks that are not inspected, and so they can't go on the road, and then you have and then you have maybe a massive storm in the middle of the country, and all the trucks have got to go down to Florida, cross, and back up to California. You're going to need a lot more trucks for that longer route. Well, now we're basically opening up. Walmart says, "Well, you can't get to this warehouse. We're going to open up this warehouse down here." It's going. These trucks actually have to. It gets complicated to say, but they have to move more because they're already up here. Now they got to go down and then back up. It's available truck problem. You can open up all the warehouses you want. If you don't have enough trucks, that's not going to solve your problem. In the Middle East, there's oil all around the world. Why is all the oil come from the Middle East? Because it's right between Europe and Asia. People develop those oil fields because it's a very short run to the two massive markets. It's not that so that's where the investment money went in. Well, now you're taking short routes from Europe just down to the Middle East. Now, if they want to come to Venezuela, they got to cross an entire ocean and come back. It's just sucking super tanker capacity off the market, and people don't understand freight, so they don't understand. You can't, if you release a massive reserve in Argentina, maybe we find out that they have 200 million barrels that they're secretly hiding for another Falkland War. Unlikely, but all right, great. You could have 200 million barrels down there. Where are you getting the ships to go and bring that to market? It's far away from everything.
Sure. Well, John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time here today.
We'll continue to monitor the situation, and perhaps as things evolve, you can charge your iPad and we can talk to you again. Soon. But
I
until then,
apologize for the technical
All good.
difficulties. And,
Thanks for joining.
Go feel better, Boot. We'll talk soon. See you later.
All right. Thank you,
See you,
guys.
John. Take care.
Yeah.
All righty. I'm going to bring Kara on. Good morning, Kara.
What's up, friends? How are you guys?
How we doing?
Pretty good. Just spent the hour talking about Iran and the Middle East conflict.
I was going to say.
Let's continue.
I really hope we're not continuing that conversation because I'm going to be a little bit useless.
Well, I'm sure in some ways it's had an effect on you or in various ways. But cool. Kara, I guess we could switch a topic here now and discuss more, I guess, pertinent information for the logistics community. So what's up with you? What's new? You released a book last year. I have it here somewhere. I actually started reading it. I haven't finished it yet, but it really definitely got me intrigued with your go-to-market strategy. So I think it might be cool, since also Reed, you're the Chief Marketing Officer at Truck Running Club, and Carol, you're the founder of LeadCoverage. We could talk a little bit about marketing strategies.
Let's do it. I did. I wrote the book on it. It's an Amazon bestseller. Yeah, it was really great. We actually wrote a workbook too. I was hanging out with a dear friend and I said, hey, here's the book, right? And he's like, cool, I don't read books. Can you make me like a Clip Notes version? So we did. So there's this workbook and it's got 28 exercises, anything from like, what's your ideal customer profile, all the way through how to use AI for your go-to-market, which is on the top of everyone's mind. And so we took it on tour last year. We did 10 cities. This year we're doing 4 cities. It's been awesome. I give book writing itself 0 stars. That was pretty terrible. But the results of it have been great. Yeah.
What, Kara, just for those who don't know you or are unfamiliar with what you've done, can you give us the Cliff Notes version of you?
Yeah, sure. So I was number 12 at Echo Global Logistics. I actually watched Doug Wagner get hired through a glass conference room. Kind of fun. He walked by 3 years later and was like, hey, we're going to go public. You want to write an S1? And I said, yeah. I will.
What's
Google
an S1?
that. Exactly. What is an S1? Yeah. So the S1 is the document that you write for the SEC before you actually go public. I had absolutely nothing to do with the growth of Echo. I was the marketing girl on the floor. I had a lot of great energy. I don't want anyone to take away that I did anything to do with the actual growth of the business or the IPO itself. It was 100% Doug and Dave. But I was, had a lot of energy, was the right girl at the right time on the floor. And they were like, hey, you want to be a part of it? So I got to be a part of it, which was super cool. I got picked up out of there by Seco. I was there for about 18 months. And then I spent some time at OHL as they became Geodis. So my background is all marketing, all for big, turning into enterprise, if you will. Echo was small at the time, but now they're enterprise, obviously. And then I turned it into a business. So we've been doing this for 10 years. We do go-to-market consulting specifically in freight. So we only touch the freight ecosystem. When I talk to folks outside of the space, I tell them that we do the physical movement of goods, the tech that moves the goods, and the money that moves the goods. So we touch the whole ecosystem. We have a team of 50-ish, almost 50 here in the US, some in Panama, and we've got a team in the UK. And we actually, probably our pride and joy from the last 18 months or so is helping the Gartner team create the 4PL Magic Quadrant. So the work that we do is all the way like super top line, sort of McKinsey level consulting on where should you try to land in a Gartner Magic Quadrant, all the way down to like, how do I get my brand found on LinkedIn and make dials, like the whole shebang. So anything that touches sales and marketing.
What do you think? My context. I worked at Echo right from 2016 to 22.
Yeah, we missed each other.
Probably a little bit after your time. Yeah. But my impression, just looking around of kind of the state of marketing in our industry was just like, fancy graphics with like a port, like a European cab over, like, you know, a 747 flying over the port, like all this like high tech looking stuff. And I'm just like, and then I'm sit down and I'm doing my job as a carrier sales rep, and I'm just like, that's not my experience of what's going on here. Like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, why are we acting, or why are we trying to portray ourselves as this when we're actually, you know, this? And that was kind of my first thought on the state of marketing in this industry. I mean, I guess, how have you seen it evolve? Like, what do you think is kind of just the current kind of state of marketing in the industry?
So it's a big question. I'm going to answer it a little bit differently than you're asking me, only because I'm not a branding girl. So I don't do pretty pictures. I don't really care what your logo.
You're not responsible for those pictures.
I am not responsible for those at all. Nope. We don't do creative at the company. We just don't do it. We have, like, literally our creative team is one person in Africa. Like, we just don't do it. It's not important. And it's not important because the shippers don't really care, right? The shippers don't really care what's on your website. They don't really care what your logo looks like. So while it is important and brand is something that you should take into account as a CEO and as a leader, I'm not 100% sure that it's the thing that you should be focused on when it comes to go-to-market or demand gen. I'll tell you what I do think is super important, and this has happened in the last 18 months, is intent data. So everything has been turned on its head from a B2B marketing perspective. And this is separate from AI. So AI has definitely changed the course of everything in the last 6 to 8 months. We're super into it. We're using it all the time, et cetera. We can have a separate conversation on AI, but intent data has been around a lot longer, and the SaaS ecosystem has been using intent data for a really long time. So I'll give you a little story that I share about what intent data is, right? So we believe that in November of 2026 or 2027, Tim Cook is going to get on stage and he's going to do his normal Apple dog and pony show, and then he's going to drop a bomb. And he's going to say, by the way, Apple is insourcing their supply chain by 2030. And the reason we think this is going to happen is because we can literally see the intent data of a Tiger team in Cupertino, California, looking for TMS, WMS, OMS, how to buy a fleet, right? Like they're searching for all of the pain points that would indicate that Apple's going to insource their supply chain. Do I actually know that Tim Cook is going to say this? Absolutely not. But I can get some clues as to what's going on inside the Apple supply chain ecosystem. That is intent data. And that has materially changed the game, very specifically when it comes to enterprise shippers. And so I'm talking about like big enterprise shippers that are changing their structure. We saw this a lot post-COVID, right? So during COVID, we saw a ton of shippers look at their P&Ls and go, I don't ever want to be hit with those sorts of changes again. Let's figure out how to redesign our ecosystem and make sure that our supply chain can handle any of these disruptions in the future. And we saw major shifts happening in the intent data world. We're still seeing it. So when an enterprise shipper's board of directors said, okay, it's time to put AI into our warehouses, right? Another great example in sort of concentric to your audience, but time to put robots in the warehouse. We will literally see the intent data signals on that enterprise shipper go up around all of the big robot providers, right? So AutoStore, Geek Plus, et cetera. And you can see that they've made this decision. That has materially changed the game. A couple of things about intent data. There's 4 types of intent data. The one that I think for your audience is the most important is primary intent data. And this comes from your CRM. We like HubSpot. It's the best, easiest to use, and cheapest. If a human is in your CRM and you want them to be a customer and they come to your website, number one, that's a miracle. That doesn't happen very often. So when it happens, call them. But now you can see it. Like, you can see them actively showing up, and it's just inside the HubSpot tool. It's called Buyer Insights, and it's just part of the tool. And so I think the material change is the difference between like build it and they will come, have a bunch of 22-year-old boys just banging the phones, which is how I grew up, to a data-led motion. And the data is available. It's getting cheaper every day. The tools are getting better. And now when you layer on AI on top of it, like it's no longer about the pretty pictures. It's about who's fastest to the pain before the pain.
Interesting. So in terms of the CRM and AI, I'm wondering if you could dig deeper, Kara, into what have you been seeing? What changes have taken already place in terms of like AI actually being implemented across like CRM use, and what are the advantages of using these AI tools, and how do you like best utilize them in order to like, I don't know, gain access to like whatever the intent data, or whether it's closing more sales?
Yeah. So we are trying everything. So every LinkedIn post that you see by some tech bro who's like, give me, I built a Claude prompt and it, I got to get rid of my whole marketing team. I have tried all of it and almost none of it works. So
yeah,
there's a couple pieces that are working. One is what's happening inside the CRM itself. So I'm a big HubSpot fan. We do Salesforce and other things too, but HubSpot is the best, cheapest, easiest to use. And they are product led. And so they have their own AI tools inside of HubSpot that are kind of awesome and bananas. So you want to micro segment your list. You just pop into HubSpot, type into Breeze, like show me everyone with this NAICS or SASE code, or anyone who's responded to an email in the last, year and a half. And so what's inside of the HubSpot ecosystem is really cool. The buyer intent is also continuing, like they're continuing to add to it. So this product-led growth all around the intent data for HubSpot. But HubSpot's intent is only what's inside your CRM. So the philosophy that LeadCoverage follows, been doing this for 10 years, is very simple. You must own the email address of every human who can buy from you. The second piece of that is actually more important. I think everyone's kind of behind this philosophy that like, I need to own these email addresses and then I can see what they're doing in my ecosystem. The second piece of this is actually more important. What we learned from Sales Intel last year, they did a big study, is that 25 to 30% of the email addresses in your CRM are bad every 90 days. So this idea that you can like pull a list out of ZoomInfo in January and use it for the entire year is absolutely false. We see a lot of customers and a lot of prospects telling us, oh, I have 10,000 records, or I have 60,000 records, I have 100,000 records. And they're all from 2022 and we can't use them, right? We have one customer that has 1.6 million records in HubSpot, and they market to about 250 or 300,000 of them. So I think the scale of the record count in your CRM is just grossly underestimated by a lot of the leaders that I meet in freight. Like the volume of records that you need to have. And when I say the word record, I mean email address. The volume that you need to have to win in this marketplace is shocking. And most people think it's cool if you pull a list out of ZoomInfo in January and then use it for the full year. And they're going to fail because you're not tracking all of the activity on those humans because the humans are moving, right? Yeah. So I'm not sure I answered your question, Reed, but Paul, but the real key to it is owning the data. Same thing with anything in AI, right? Like anything AI related starts with you have to own the data. So a closed loop, repeatable process of getting every record that can buy from you is the most important. And here's another thing we're talking a lot about. It is not enough to have one data source. So just ZoomInfo is not enough. ZoomInfo, Clay, Leadfeeder, Sales Intel is our preferred partner. You've got upstarts happening in the marketplace all over the place. It's not enough to have one. You have to have like 3 to 5 to be able to get every email address that are moving all the time.
And so it's not just as simple as you have these emails and all of a sudden you're good to go and you've got millions of customers, obviously. I mean, what is an effective user of that data look like?
Yep. So there's 3 strategies that work in freight. It's really 3. Okay. So this is in addition to your standard sending stuff to LinkedIn, et cetera, like just basic marketing. Okay. So let's just assume that basic marketing table stakes are executed. There are 3 strategies that work in freight. One is a true executive point of view, which we like to think of as an index. So our best index so far, we've got like 3 or 4 of them for clients that have really like ROI crazy, like just super outperformed. One of them is actually published in the book, and that's the ITS Port Rail Ramp Index. So we went to ITS. We're like, we've been a customer for a long time, 6-7 years. Hey, what do you guys do that's different than everybody else? Turns out they do drayage at all 26 ports, which is kind of weird. And they happen to have an absolutely stellar VP of that group named Paul Brazier. And Paul is willing to get on stage and talk to CNBC and have conversations. So every single month, even when there's nothing really happening at the ports, the ITS team publishes the ITS Port Rail Ramp Index. That has turned them into an industry thought leader on drayage. And so building that muscle, that engine of exactly who you are in the marketplace is the most important. And the nicher you can get, the better. We have another client that puts on an index only on steel transportation, right? No one's done one on data centers. I think someone should be doing an index on transportation to data centers. That is an industry that needs an index, right? So as close as you can to your shipper, build an index that speaks to them. And the key here is 3 data points. It does not need to be like 25-page report. 3 KPIs is all anybody needs. Make yourself look like a thought leader, and someone's going to come to you and be like, I really want to know what's going on, right? So this is the first strategy that's working, a real true index. You guys actually are like right up for this at the Truck Parking Club. Like this is like right up your alley. Like you should totally have a parking index. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
So 1, 2 is intent data. We just talked about it. There's 4 kinds of intent data. Primary intent data lives in your HubSpot. 2 is secondary intent data. If I am investing in intent data in 2026, I am not investing in secondary intent. Secondary intent comes from Google and Bombora. These are all based on Google cookies. And with the rise of the LLM, the Google effectiveness, essentially the efficacy of Google is being diminished. So instead of spending money on secondary intent, we're going to spend it on tertiary intent. The best tool in the marketplace is called 6 Sense. It's super, super expensive. Go get a demo, see what good looks like. But if you don't have an extra $200K to burn, try something smaller like a Sales Intel or a Rollworks. But this is like the story I told you earlier about Apple, right? Like looking for those intent signals. And then there's a 4th type of intent data only for brokers, which is really sold through Carrier Source. And if you are a broker and you haven't talked to Rob Light about the Carrier Source intent data, you are missing the boat. Full transparency, I'm on the cap table. I think this tool is incredible. It does amazing work. We think about it as single stream intent. So number 1, A in the index, something that really shows you're the expert every single month. 2 is intent data. And then 3 is sort of anything AI related. And for us, this is really strong AEO work. We are seeing contextually, we have a really big client. You would know the name. I won't share, but they spend a lot of money on Google every month. Last year, they saw their Google spend diminished by 45% that was cannibalized by the LLMs. So they're paying just as much as they were last year for the same pickup on Google, but they're missing it because it's going to LLMs. So they're also capturing it there, which is great. But what we're seeing also contextually is our clients that are posting press releases to the wire, the actual press wire, are getting picked up faster by the LLMs than our clients that are not. And it's kind of funny, if you are a marketer, if you've been like following how to market in the space for a while, press releases kind of became dead for a while. Like it was press releases in the early 2000s. Then everybody wrote blog posts because Google was indexing blogs and it all became about SEO. Everything's just coming back to the press. Like it's all just like a big circle. But the LLMs can capture the free information on a press release better, faster, stronger than they can on like gated websites, things like that. And no LLM is reading your website to look at your blog. Like, so blogs are dead. Don't even bother. And LLMs aren't searching LinkedIn. So, you know, if all you're doing is posting to LinkedIn, you're missing the opportunity to get picked up by Chat and Claude, Gemini, et cetera.
Interesting. Carrie, you mentioned about the indexes, and we talked to David Spencer like last month or 2 months ago. They put out the Arrive Logistics Index report. Then there's RXO. RXO's been hitting me up lately about their reports. I know Uber Freight does it. Like a lot of these large brokerages are investing money in having these index reports because it makes them, at least the shippers are interested in that, and it gives them an opportunity to build a lead or warm lead with shippers. So curious, like, but that also seems like a lot of work, right? I mean, the top brokerages are able to invest money in that and have the best people to actually, create the reports, make them to look nice, and make them actually be high quality. So I'm wondering, like, what if you're not able to afford that? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, with AI, anybody can do this. Like, this is not difficult anymore. Like pulling together a graphic and like an infographic, you can do it in Claude in 5 minutes, right? Here's the real key, Paul. Your customer, the niche of your customer, right? Like, don't try to compete with Uber or Arrive or any of these big guys that are and no one needs another OTR index, right? Like, everyone tracks DAT. Like, you don't try to compete with the big guys. Pick the niche. Like I said, we have a client that is doing this only for steel. Do you know how many steel distributors and manufacturers there are in the United States? 123. That's it. They need to get this index in front of about 500 people. We have another client. Actually, I sit on a board of a client of a company, not a client. I'm on the board. They're life sciences only. There are roughly 50 to 65 companies that they need to get in front of to really move the needle for their clients, right? And so you don't need to be the everything to everyone. Get super niche about the index, right? I mean, like Reed and team, like, this is truck parking only, right? You could do truck parking only in the Southeast, truck parking only in the Northwest, right? Like, get as tight as you can on the niche, and then no one's going to check your math, right? So no one's going to check it. Like, just put it out there. Like, no one's going to check your math. Just have a point of view,
Okay.
I think Freight Caviar can actually do its own index just by crowdsourcing data from all the people in the audience. I mean, I think it is interesting though, because really at the end of the day, it's like, if you're take the steel example, how does a company like identify their niche? They obviously have to know something about their customer base. They have to know something about like their capability and their unique capability, and kind of bearing all that data in mind, they're like, oh, we perform really well in this segment. We've got a lot of customers in this segment. We've got a lot of knowledge about how to run, in this market. And with that, we can kind of put it all together and dump it into Claude, and no one's going to check the math. So we should just I mean, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples of like niche industries where this sort of thing can exist. And so what you're saying essentially from like a what does this actually do for you as a business standpoint, you put this information out, you effectively communicate it to the people who need it, right? You know who those people are, and that putting that out, giving them valuable info is just like kind of credibility building, and will lead to a higher close rate on that business. Is that essentially the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. The other idea is give it away for free. And when they come into you, they will be pre-qualified and they will be willing to pay you a premium because you are the expert on that thing. Like if you are the expert in, I don't even know, like drayage in California, like you have assets in California and drayage in California is your thing. That is a humongous pain in the ass for a lot of people. They don't want to deal with it. There's a lot of, issues around it, etc. When they go to pick a drayage provider, who are they picking? The guy that posts about, the guy that shares the data on drayage in California, right? But like you said, the nichier you get, the easier it is to become the expert. Don't try to compete on like an OTR level. We have another client that is expedite only for OEMs, right? Like hyper specific, get as tight as you can. I mean, even better would be expedite only for second tier OEMs, for just tier 2 providers to the OEMs, just expedite. And the other key here, Reed, is 3 KPIs. So it's not, you don't need a 26-page report. Like the Arrive report is like overwhelming, right? You don't need that much data. It's really just 3 KPIs. And it often doesn't have to be your math. It can be someone else's math. The Steele stuff is often other people's math, but we're just giving a point of view and we're mixing our math into it. I think one of the weird things that happens in freight, and I don't know exactly why this is the case, because so many of my freight broker friends have a lot to say about a lot of things, is people don't want to sound stupid, or they don't want to like take a position on something.
Imposter syndrome.
Sorry, say it again.
Imposter syndrome.
Maybe. But you do have to have a position. I think that's the other kind of component to it, Reed, is like you have to have a point of view on what is good and what is bad, and you need to essentially turn yourself into the arbiter of good. And for some reason, some people have like a hard time saying like, you know, I want to be the arbiter of good in this thing, and I want to like put my stamp on what best practice is. But if you're willing to do that and get out there and say like, hey, these 3 things we know a ton about, and we're going to put our stamp on it, people will come in. Like the inbound that never happens in freight, right? The inbound volume for our clients that do these indexes is ROI positive, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of putting themselves out there, right? I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see more of it. But the ones that do are reaping the advantages of it. And time will tell if that's going to change or not. And we're like, I guess like if we're to like say in the future there's gonna be more index reports, and all of a sudden people listen to our interview, and now a lot of companies want to do index reports, there might be like an index bubble that we create, and all of a sudden, you know, like we're back in the press releases right now, right? Like we've gone full circle. There's going to be another trend, right? And it's going to continue to evolve. But it's
if there's an
important to be on
index
top
bubble,
of it.
Paul, if there's an index bubble in freight, I am 100% taking credit for that. Just so you know.
We're taking all credit for it.
We need to do an index. Paul, perhaps there's an opportunity for us to do an index of indexes.
Yeah.
Right?
Perhaps we could create the bubble.
Are there?
What if we create the bubble, you know?
I'm in. Let's do it.
Indexbubble.ai or indexreports.ai. We just create your index reports for you.
What like, you know, obviously there's a lot of forces at play in just like the future kind of shape of the freight brokerage space, right? Like there's all sorts of, there's a lot of stuff going on. And I guess how do you see the evolution of kind of the freight broker over the next decade as, you know, AI starts to, you know, have effects on the operations, right? Like there's perhaps more decisions being made by machines. Obviously data and data integrity and kind of the clarity of and the accessibility of your data becomes incredibly important as, you know, when it comes to adopting these tools. Like, how do you, like, if you're good at that, you're probably going to be good at what you're explaining too, or you're going to be equipped to be good at what you're explaining. Like, what do you think people like? Who wins? Like, how do you win in that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you set yourself up for the future to kind of reap the rewards of all of this scenario we're kind of laying out?
It's a really good question. So I'm going to start my answer with telling you that I don't judge the market. So I am not an operator. I work for anyone in the market who wants to hire me. And I don't judge the TMS. I don't judge the AI. I don't judge their decisions from an operating perspective. Okay, so I have to be really careful because a lot of my clients compete. So I am not the arbiter of good on your strategy from like a business perspective, right? It's my job to help you execute the strategy that the leadership team dictates, and whether they choose to use AI in their TMS or build their own or invest in a top tier or invest in like, I call them friction specific AI components. I am not a voyeur is the wrong word, but I'm watching it happen in real time. But Reed, I have to be really careful in my position in the marketplace, not to judge the tech or judge the operations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What I am very happy to give you my perspective on is one of the things that is very important is that we keep the CRM/prospecting engine of any logistics service provider separate from the TMS or the operational data. So we spend a lot of time starting HubSpot. So about 15% of my book of business is just HubSpot spin-ups. So we will take you off of Microsoft, we'll take you off of Salesforce, we'll take you off of spreadsheets, and we'll put HubSpot into your ecosystem. And HubSpot is a prospecting engine. More than once, we have had clients try to connect their prospecting engine to their TMS in more ways than we think are appropriate or applicable. So we believe there are 3 places, really 3 just fields. They're super tiny fields that we should be connecting: date of last shipment, margin of last shipment, and total customer value. And that's it. Because that is what the rep needs to build their kind of day and decide who they're going to target, et cetera. That's really all they need. When you start to collect lane information and quoting information and volume in the prospecting tool, you start to overlap these data layers and things get very confusing very fast. So I think, to answer your question, AI is super important. We use it every day, all day. The base data for AI to make good decisions is the most important. I think everyone can agree to that. The smart brokers, the smart logistics service providers are separating their operational data from their sales data. Because you need to, if they're all one and you can't kind of parse it, or it's really hard to parse it, or you've got 4 or 5 different tools that are all feeding into one data lake and you can't pull it out, understanding how to use the prospecting data becomes really complicated from an AI perspective. And things start to hallucinate, and it makes the AIs kind of like make assumptions based on your operational data, which may not be true for the prospect, if that makes sense. So I think the ones that are going to win from a go-to-market perspective are going to have a couple components. One, they're going to be super willing to niche down. I think we're going to see really niche players show up that have specialized either operational components or the ability to get in front of someone who has a pain, right? Is one. And then 2, the folks that have really clear data governance structure so that they can use the AI, not just operationally, but also from a go-to-market perspective. So we would like to have like a walled garden between these 2. And oftentimes it's really hard because the senior leadership get their hands on the CRM and they're like, wow, this thing is awesome. Can it do these 5 other things? And you're like, yeah. Are you sure that's where you want it? Like, the data for the TMS needs to stay in the TMS. So it was a long-winded answer to your question, Reed.
No, I mean, I think it makes sense. It's one thing I'm thinking a lot about is like, on that kind of operational, like to your point about like your operational, the scope of the data that you have about a customer's operation might be misleading, right? Like it might, you only have you only know what you know, and you might only know a small portion of the business, and that might lead you to make conclusions about the customer that are incorrect. But as that operational data about a shipper becomes less opaque, perhaps you just know every single lane every shipper does because, through whatever means, right? Like how does kind of the availability of high quality data in that domain, how does that start to change how people are able to compete, right? Because like an example of this is, not talking about shippers, but talking about carriers. It's like, big brokerages know a lot about, they work with a lot of carriers, they move a lot of loads, and that puts them at an advantage versus over the small guy who doesn't move a lot of loads with a lot of carriers, because they know where the carriers operate, they know the lanes they run, they know what kind of equipment they have, they know all this stuff. But like, as time goes on, that data is not going to be only the living in the TMS of the big broker. It's going to be available to everybody as time goes on. At least that's what I think. And like, what are the effects of that, and how do you alter your strategy if data is no longer a moat in that sense?
It's a good question. I think it's probably going to be, so I think of this from a go-to-market perspective, right? We have not marketed to carriers in the last 3 years, but as the market switches back, we're going to start to see more of our clients asking us to market to carriers again. And I think we'll probably approach it the same way that we approach marketing to shippers, right? Which is, if a carrier has a pain, they're going to be trying to solve that pain, and we're going to be able to see it in the intent data. The more information you have about either a shipper or a carrier that you can add to your intent tool, from a keyword perspective, the better off you're going to be. I'll give you a very specific example of how this worked. Really high ROI performing campaign. So we worked for a client that's inside the four walls. They are a consultant inside the four walls. And we loaded up their 6 cents with their target prospects, right? And their prospects were searching for very specific robot vendors. So this very specific robot vendor, where people were like, of the 75 that we loaded up into the tool, 15 of them were surging on Geek Plus, like one specific robot vendor. We ran what's called a programmatic media campaign against this robot vendor, and we turned 5 into clients, like huge ROI on this campaign. So I think off the top of my head, I would follow the same playbook for carriers. And so they're going to have pain. They're going to be looking to solve that pain, whether it's lane specific, shipper specific, broker specific, right? Regional specific, weather specific. Like every time there's a weather event or a geopolitical event, fuel's an issue right now. Being able to identify your customers or your vendors' pain and then get in front of them with the message on how you can solve it. Really, that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's, and the intent data, I mean, that could be literally anything about a business, right? Like if all of a sudden, you learn that cash flow, quick cash flow for a carrier is becoming more and more important, then, perhaps you're able to say something to your carrier base about like paying faster that might make it more attractive to work with you. I mean, it's just
isn't intent data like specific to like the company of what they're searching? Which is, I guess I'm more curious about this intent data. Sorry for interrupting you, Reed, but like it seems a little bit creepy, like where there's a lot of like intent data. I'm just curious, so is intent data like in cookies? Like how is intent data being tracked, and like why is it so accessible from like a legal perspective? And should we as individuals should be like worried about this, or company wise?
Paul's a big GDPR guy. He's a Euro.
Well, I know he's in Poland. So
yeah,
Paul, we can't see your stuff. You're protected by the European Union.
Am I? Well, why do I get like these cookie pop-ups on every website I go? Like I always reject them. At least I try to reject them.
That's because Europe is forcing companies to put these crazy banners on their websites.
There's actually things I'm very happy about in Europe that I guess this is why I'm going to be happy, because I live here personally, but I do business in the States, right? So I still have access to the data in the United States that I need if I want. Actually, I don't really buy data or anything like that. But I guess I get the best of both worlds, right? Like my personal data is protected, whereas from a business perspective, it's more, I still have access to the States.
So I am a B2B marketer, not a B2C marketer. So I say this with a grain of salt that I don't know the ins and outs of the personal data component. Okay. But from a business perspective, your business email address is fair game in the United States. If there is a business reason for someone to try to contact you in any way, shape, or form in the US of A, it is free reign, right? So there's very little that you can do about the shocking volume of spam you're getting in your inbox. It just is what it is, right? So the same thing with intent data. It works better at bigger companies. So the enterprise companies are spinning off more more intent data queues than smaller companies, just
Mhm.
volume-wise, right? So if you are a broker or a carrier going after the SMB market, intent data is really hard for you to put into good use because there's just not enough volume. But intent data is there's a whole bunch of different ways that these intent data companies collect this. Mostly it's through a CDP, and they've been building these for years and years and years. And it's if I knew how they did it, Paul, and I had access to it, like I would be on a very different phone call. What's been really interesting lately, though, is and I don't know how this is going to turn out, is the layer of AI on top of intent is changing the SaaS game really quickly. So the former CEO of 6sense, which is like the big 800-pound gorilla in the marketplace, came out and said 6sense is going to be dead, which is a weird thing for them to do. She now has her own business and she's using AI. So like the real answer is I don't know how this is all going to shake out. We are paying very close attention to what's happening in the SaaS space on all of this. But the short answer is yes. Like it's super creepy. The big guys are all using it. We have access to the data. It's all public. Whether or not the LLMs are going to be a part of this game is also kind of interesting. So will you be able to see the intent data queues that people are putting into ChatGPT or into Claude? Are those personal email addresses? Are those business email addresses? Are they business searches? Are they personal searches? Are they considered searches? Like I don't know, like I keep going back to like 2004 when I was like keyword stuffing, landing pages at Echo. Like it feels like the early days again. I've never been more energized to be in the seat that I'm in and grateful to be in the market that I'm in, because we all know that the freight ecosystem is a little slow to adopt. So we've got some clients that are like willing to try kind of anything and like willing to get in there and figure it out. And we've got some clients that are like, yeah, let's just stand up HubSpot. And so I don't know, ask me in 18 months, like I'll come back on in a year or 6 months and tell you like where we've come to and where we're going. But what I can tell you is today, if I had to invest, right? If I were a mid-cap broker and I were investing, I would invest really aggressively in my CRM. I would do a really good job of implementing it. I would keep it separate from the TMS. I would make sure that I'm capturing every single email address that I can of all the shippers who could buy from me. I would niche down. I would tell the marketplace what I want to be considered the expert in, and I would follow up as fast as humanly possible. I am still amazed at the number of small to mid-sized brokers who just don't follow up on the leads we give them. It is shocking. So, and it's not just quoting following up. It's like actually like picking up the phone and following up with folks that have shown interest. That's what I'd be doing in 26.
You can't AI prompt that. That's why people aren't following up. You still have to make a phone call and talk to someone.
Somebody has to make the phone call. Although AI SDRs are on the way. They are on the way, but no one's tried them. We haven't had a client who wants to try them yet. So we'll see. Maybe in 6 months.
Oh. Well, Kara, that was really insightful information. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thanks.
And I would add to that point, if you're, I guess a mid-sized brokerage and you want to invest, to also reach out to Kara's company and Kara from LeadCoverage.
You can always hire me, yes, but we do give it away for free. We wrote the book on it.
Yeah, there you go.
Wrote the book on it. You've got the index on it. You're dialed in. You are the subject matter expert. Thanks, Kara. Thanks for coming on.
The Kool-Aid. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us, Kara. Take care.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Oh man. I'm
how you doing, Reed?
I'm good.
It's Friday.
I was out playing pool or shooting pool at the Chattanooga Billiards Club last night. And I'm here in body, if not in mind. But that was interesting. The whole intent thing is, it's a bit, perhaps it's a bit creepy, but like at the end of the day, when you do everything on the computer,
it's very helpful. Yeah. I get it. Like, I'm going to be utilizing intent data for sure in some way, shape or form. I just got set up with HubSpot last week.
Dude, HubSpot. I do like HubSpot actually. Which I never thought I would be having opinions about CRMs, but here we are.
I have it.
I don't really have a whole lot else to say.
Yeah,
so if you want to
same.
go,
I think
let's
I
leave.
think it was a good show. It was nice to have Jonathan on, Jonathan Kolb from OBC1. Then we have John Konrad, gCaptain, and finish off Kara Smith Brown. I think it was a great episode. We went a little bit longer with Kara. It is, we're an hour 45 minutes into the show. I think it's the right time to end. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And we'll be back next Friday, March 20th.
All
Is
right.
that Matt's? No, Matt's is in 2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
All right. So in 2 weeks, I won't be on. Reed's going to be doing it live from Matt's, which is the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky. There's I think like 50,000 people go to that show. Reed's going to have a booth set up, live show. If you're listening to this right now and you're going to be at Matt's, make sure to hit up Reed at the Truck Parking Club booth in Matt's in 2 weeks. What's your booth number? Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna have to look it up.
Well, DM Reed. Reach out to him, and he'll have you live on Freight Gong Friday from Matt's in 2 weeks. Cool.
Bang.
Happy Friday, everyone. Enjoy your weekend and take care.
Later, brother.